Hello, and welcome to How to Place Markers and Run an Analysis for a PVC with VIVO. This tutorial picks up where we left off with how to import an ECG with VIVO. The analysis module opens up to the screen you see here. When the module opens, the first saved segment is shown in the ECG window on the left side of the screen. However, the user may use any ECG segments that were saved in the ECG module by selecting the drop-down menu and selecting the desired segment that was saved. Whichever segment was selected will now appear in the ECG window on the left side of the screen. ECG screen contains the 12-lead ECG as well as an RMS or root mean square waveform at the bottom of the screen. The root mean square is an average of all 12 leads and is the best reference to use for marker placement. Next, select the Insert ECG Markers button at the top of the screen. A dialog box will appear and ask you to adjust each of the markers. Press OK, and the markers will appear in the ECG window. To assist with accurate placement of the markers, increase the size of the RMS waveform by clicking Shift and scrolling up with the mouse wheel. Gain up the individual 12 leads, hover over the leads and scroll the wheel up. And to move the markers themselves, left click and drag marker to whichever place you would like. The purpose of the green marker is to mark the isoelectric point on the ECG tracing. Using the RMS waveform, it should be placed between the T wave and the P wave, where the baseline is closest to 0 millivolts. Hover over the marker to see the sample value. The value may not be exactly 0 millivolts, but it should be very close. The blue marker is used to mark the end of the QRS. The end of the QRS may be later in some leads than others. Look at the 12 lead and find the last lead to return to baseline and place your blue marker there. But make sure the blue marker is placed before the T wave begins. The red marker should be placed at baseline just before the upstroke of the QRS. Marker can be placed using the RMS, but all 12 leads should be used to determine which signal has the earliest upstroke from the baseline. The red marker placement is the most critical part of the analysis process. If placed incorrectly, it can lead to an erroneous result. After placing the markers, Analyze on the top right will be highlighted. When you are ready to start your analysis, click Analyze, and a dialog box will appear and tell you the QRS duration and ask you if the markers are correctly positioned. If you're happy with the marker placement, press Yes, and VIVO will begin processing the analysis. While the analysis is processing, a dialog box will be visible in the middle of the screen, displaying the progress as % complete. Once complete, the origin of the analyzed PVC will appear on the model with an activation map. This process usually takes about a minute. The earliest point of activation of the PVC is represented by a red dot within a red colored area. The colors on the model only display an estimate of the remaining activation. The aortic valve is represented by a white circle which contains a black line segmenting the cusps. There are various tools available to help interpret the analysis. These can be found on the bottom of the screen. Camera angle buttons along the bottom of the screen can help orient the model. Depending on the location of the origin, it can be useful to see the model in different orientations. The man in the top left corner of the screen is oriented to the angle chosen. To emphasize the location and get a different look, or to better see the point of origin, the peel away tool can be helpful. You can peel away as much or as little as desired. This is especially useful for endocardial locations. To use the peel away tool, left double click on the model while holding down the shift button. And then use the scroll button, scroll upward to peel away, and downward to put back the model. A slide bar below the model controls the transparency. This can be useful and would be similar to the peel away tool when your localization is in a location that's hard to visualize, such as the endocardium. Push the slider towards the right for more translucency and back to the left for more opacity. The right and left cavity buttons allow the user to visualize only the right or left blood cavity without the myocardium. To enable this feature, select either right or left cavity. The myocardium is on by default and will need to be turned off to visualize the individual cavities. The user can do this by simply pressing the myocardium button. Matrix is on the model by default. Pressing the matrix button disables it. The propagation map demonstrates the estimated propagation through the ventricles, beginning with the earliest point of activation, which is the red dot shown on the VIVO model. To play the propagation map, select Run, and the propagation map will automatically play. The Run button will become a Stop button. The propagation map will continue to play until the user selects Stop. The propagation feature will not be available while the myocardium is transparent. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you for your time and attention.